Hello friends, Charmaine here, and today we are decorating ceramic pumpkins. I painted this plain white one with a bunch of lovely floral patterns, and I will teach you how to do the same. At the end of this video, you should be able to learn how to draw different floral elements that you can use to build your own floral pattern for any other decorating project that you might have in mind. For this project, I am using these brush markers from Arrtx, so it will be easier for you to follow along. I will break down the process step by step for each element that I used in this project. If you're ready, let's get started. I will be using these markers that were sent over by Arrtx. It's the Simptap Acrylic Markers. This set comes in 48 different colors. Each pen also has a nylon brush tip, which is perfect for the art style that I'm going to teach you. You can use other acrylic markers as well if you already have that, but if you're planning to get one, I suggest that you try this brand as well because it really has strong coverage. And each pen also comes with a unique valve protection system that keeps your markers fresher for longer and, of course, for easier use as well. If you're interested, I'll put the link in the description. For these specific markers, I do suggest that you do an ink swatch. Sometimes I'm lazy, I just don't bother doing it, but this time it's crucial and I'll show you why. For example, these are two sort of like red pens, right? And this one has that bright red color, but the other one is like sort of a maroon. But as you can see, it's giving more of like a purple shade, which is not really the color of the cap. So just to be sure, create a personal swatch that you can refer to while working. All right, let's get to painting/drawing. So I am using these pumpkin ceramics that I purchased from Primark a year ago. If I remember correctly, they were less than £1 each. Pause here if you want to see the colors that I used for this project. Otherwise, let's get to cracking and go through each element one by one. I always have an extra sheet of paper where I can pre-test the pen before using it on the actual surface I'm working on. I suggest you do the same. This is the first element. So the first step is to draw the branches. Thin branches that branch out as you go up higher. Just keep adding branches as you go and just stop when you feel like that's enough. You can always add more details later on. Next step is to use J011 to add dots. So it's super easy, just add dots and form them into little clusters on the branches. The great thing about these markers is that it's so strong in coverage and it's opaque, so you can just layer it on there. And that's element done one, easy peasy. Next we move on to the second element, which is more of like a foxtail or a wheat sort of like shape. So basically, instead of dots this time, we're going for like downward strokes, small downward stroke that sort of create like rice shaped cylinders. Just arrange your drawing to create an elongated shape. Next step is to draw the main stem followed by little branches that fill in the gaps. Try to make these strokes as thin as possible. And that's element number 2 done. The next element is a 5-petal flower. So you start by using the yellow pen to draw in 5 petals. To create the shape of the petals, you just slightly press down your brush pen and then just add tiny strokes to finish the shape. Do these 5 times until you get the shape of a flower and just go back and forth to add tinier strokes to complete the shape of the flower. When all the yellow elements are done, now using the brown pen, you can draw in the stems and also the central part of the flower. For the central part, I just dot them around to create a circular shape. And then after which, I use the yellow pen to draw 2 lines just to add more dimension to the flower. These details might be small, but in the overall look of the pattern, they actually matter. Now this next element is inspired by ox eye wildflower, sort of like daisies. And they have thin stroked petals and a multiple of them. So you just draw your petals as thin strokes. All of these strokes are facing towards the center to create the shape of the flower. I also added another variation. So this is like sort of like a half flower. If you draw the flower halfway, it will look like the backside of the flower. Now using the yellow, you just draw the center portion of the flower, just dot them around, then follow it up with a white pen and just make more of white dots surrounding the yellow bit. This really creates dimension and more drama to your drawing. Then finally, grab the brown pen and just draw thin strokes to create the different stems. Once you've mastered these 4 elements, you can easily create your own flower pattern. I cleaned the surface of the ceramic pumpkins before I painted them on just to make sure the paint will adhere better. I'm going to try my best to explain the process of creating this pattern. I don't really pre-plan like the positions of the flowers, so I just draw them as I go. And basically, I think the whole concept here is just filling up the space as much as you can. While that's my style, other artists would prefer to leave more white space or negative space. But for some reason, I gravitate towards filling the entire canvas with something. So I suggest working with one element and spreading it throughout your surface. In my case, I started with the daisies just because the sort of like mauve color is the darkest one. So I'll get a better visual of how the pattern is being distributed across the surface. Then when I'm happy with all the bits and pieces, I go on to the next element and then add more details as I go. Then I just keep on going, adding the next element and then the next element. Sometimes I go back and forth, especially when I see a space that I feel like, oh, this will not fit another flower. I'll just put in another filler here or more of the dots here. This is the point where you can let your creativity shine. Once you've mastered all the different elements, you can mix and match the colors and the florals and the patterns. This is the point where you get to create your own design, your own style, an approach that is entirely uniquely yours. Also to add, just be mindful, especially if you're working on a round surface as I am, that I was holding the pumpkin in a specific way just so I didn't get the wet paint on my fingers. But of course, I am only human and I smudged a couple of the details. But again, thankfully, these markers have very strong coverage and it was super easy to just go back in and correct the smudges. Anyway, just keep on working on your floral pattern until you come up to a point where you're happy with the final look, as I was with these pumpkins. If you made it this far, thank you so much for watching this video. Hopefully I was able to impart knowledge with you. If not, at least at the minimum, I was able to share inspiration. Anyway, I'll end this video here and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!